everyone. We are here right now in a very special episode because we are covering the Miami Film Festival, and we have this opportunity to talk with some filmmakers that are presenting their films in the festival, which is being held in these days in Miami, starting tomorrow actually. And we have a very special guest tonight. We have to thank all the people involved with the festival and Scott Motisco especially because he arranged this interview. So we have tonight the very special Kaveh Nabatian. Kaveh Nabatian? This is right, yeah. Yeah. Which is a Canadian filmmaker who is presenting his film Sin La Habana. And Sin La Habana, we've actually already watched the film and we both like it, and it's about a Afro-Cuban couple who is trying to leave the country Cuba and is planning an idea to complete this plan, but it's a dangerous kind of dangerous plan with obvious consequences, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. And so my first question is, some filmmakers like John Carney with music or Bob Fosse with choreography and dance transpose these other arts into filmmaking. And you having a background as a cinematographer, musician, what is the process for you to transform and to impregnate that musical background then into your image?
I'd say that, kind of the first things that come to me when I'm coming up with a film are a certain moment, like a certain moment that I have in my head that I want to express. And that moment is usually as much about the sound as the visual. It's really about creating it's like a certain atmosphere in my head, a certain feeling, and I think in images and in sound. So it's kind of the starting point is as much music and sound as it is story. And it's hard to tell, like I guess you guys probably watch it on laptops, but there's actually a lot of sound work done in there, and I really like to think about how you can express narrative ideas and emotional ideas through sound. So not just music, but also the idea of remembered sound and how the sound in Cuba feels compared to how the sound in Canada feels, not just objectively how it sounds, but what does it feel like to be in the sound of Havana? What does it feel like to be in the sound of Montreal? So like, I guess when I'm working in film, I try to make films that are really musical, and I'm working in music, I try to make music that feels really cinematic. So I'm always like trying to bridge that gap between those two worlds.
Kaveh, I love the soundtrack of the film.
Oh,
I
cool.
think that it goes well with each scene and propose that each scene becomes something different at the level of the reading.
Mm-hmm.
Did you think of this reading from the script?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, the script, I started working on the script with another musician. So it was written with Pablo Herrera, who's a Cuban hip hop musician. So music was always a part of the film, but we started working on the script in like 2005. So, over the course of those 15 years that we were making that it took to get the film made, music changed a lot too. So the music that you heard in Havana in 2005, the kind of reggaeton and hip hop a lot that was happening in Havana in 2005 is really different from the kind of reggaeton and reparto that you're hearing now in Havana. There isn't the same kind of hip hop in the streets anymore. So originally the film was going to be a really kind of like driven by Cuban hip hop, and then that didn't really feel accurate anymore. It's more to get into this kind of reggaeton and electronic music like DJ Hiwe is doing. And so I was just listening to a lot of the music that you hear in Havana, just on the streets, and not even trying to replicate exactly what I was hearing on the streets, but more replicating kind of my memory of it, So it's like definitely using some sort of reggaeton beats and some kind of hip hop beats and some electronic beats, but it's more like trying to make music out of the feeling that I had when I was walking through through Havana.
This is a kind of very specific question. I'm always fascinated by images that I cannot recognize at first. What are they or how were they shot? And you have a few of these in your movie. For example, I remember when she's asking for him to promise her that he's gonna take her, to Canada, and after that, it appears like a orange dot in space, and it's fantastic. And I don't know if you want to elaborate about how they were created, these different images.
Yeah, sure. Well, first of all, I just want to say that the cinematography was done by a Mexican cinematographer whose career is just going through the roof because he's incredible. And it's Juan Pablo Ramirez. And we worked really, really closely on the images to try to really express something that felt natural to both of us, or that felt alive to both of us. But those scenes in particular, you're actually the first people to ask about it, and I'm really proud of those. It was it's a woman in Montreal. Her name is Karina Blo, and she calls herself a chemical puppeteer. So she makes puppetry out of chemical reactions, basically. And so the way we shot that was basically we have a giant aquarium, and the bottom half of the aquarium is warm water, and the top half is cold water. And so you can't, it just looks clear, but then when you drop dyes or like milk or wine or like all these different kind of elements into it, when it goes through the warm water and then hits the cold water, it turns into these like clouds. And she's such she works in this medium all the time. So I'm really reducing it to its most basic, but she's able to really make these chemicals and these products speak and kind of like tell the story in their own way. And so, that the whole chemical puppetry thing comes back throughout the film. And the idea there was that there's for one thing, it's important to say that each of the characters is based on one of the Orishas from Santeria.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so Leonardo is Chango, who's the god of fire and lightning, and Nassim is Oya, who's the goddess of wind and change, and Sara is Oshun, who's the goddess of fertility and rivers and honey. So those colors play a big they're really important in the film. So in the way they dressed, but then also in this kind of parallel chemical puppetry world, we were trying to give clues about the way that the different characters are coming together or separating through the chemical puppetry and the colors that we see in that medium.
The scene with Sarah and with the yellow umbrella is amazing.
Yeah.
This is not a question, by the way, regarding the editing of the film.
Yeah.
I felt an alternative editing between the sequences that put all my attention in it. Within the story, the narrative they pass so fast that I didn't realize it.
Yeah.
That is something to highlight in your movie.
Okay, cool, thanks. Yeah, well, I was really, again, lucky to work with great people throughout the whole film. And Sophie Leblanc, who is the editor, she's worked with, Denis Villeneuve and Xavier Dolan and a lot of basically all the great Quebec filmmakers she's worked with in some capacity. So I was really lucky to work with her. And then I was also really involved. She's an amazing storyteller. She's amazing at getting the story to tell it what needs to be told. And then I also edit a lot. So I was editing a lot of the dance sequences and some of the movement to try to get the movement to feel really musical. Yeah. So it was a really nice collaboration.
I love the editing of the film.
Oh, cool. That's awesome.
Some of the ways that residents from Cuba used to leave the country are very different, and some are well known. But how was your research? For in conjunction with Pablo Herrera to include this element and its detail into the story
of why people want to leave,
or no, the details of how they do it. With the amount of money that they are.
Right. Yeah, well, I was just really interested in this whole concept of jineterismo in Cuba and how people who have incredible skills, like the character in the film, will do kind of desperate things in order to fulfill their ambitions, you know, to be able to fulfill ambitions that they feel that like they can't fulfill in Cuba. So, I mean, everybody in Cuba knows a million stories of people who have done different things to get out. So it was a lot of interviews, and it was a lot of just Pablo's friends. Pablo himself left the country and lives with a German woman in Scotland. So, you know, it's like, I mean, he didn't do it through jineterismo, but the idea of leaving is something that's common to so many Cubans, and there's a million different ways to leave, but it is a constant thing for so many people. And so, yeah, I mean, I just talked to people to ask how they did it, and how their brother left, how their sister left, how their cousin left, why. And then, you know, you just figure out like, okay, well, there's these kind of constants in how you work with the other, like the Yuma, the turista, to get out. And, you know, and what was really interesting to me is that where people will kind of use the tourist to get out on a basic level, is I want pasaporte, papeles, dinero, yeah. There's also this whole thing of the tourist who comes to Cuba who just wants an exotic experience or a erotic experience with somebody who's different, you know, like I want to be with a beautiful young Afro-Cuban man and fulfill this fantasy I have. So you're not really like, neither person is really looking at the other one as a human, you know, more looking at them as symbols. And so what was really interesting to me is what happens when these people who are seeing each other as symbols are actually forced into a difficult situation in Montreal without that much money, and like it's winter and it's not, el sueño americano no existe, and so it's all of a sudden it's a whole different thing. And now she's not just a passport, and he's not just a foreign exotic hunk, he's actually a real person. And so what are the disappointments, but also what are the, you know, they start to really actually care about each other, and there's a real friendship that I don't think either one of them really thought would happen.
Totally. The construction of the character is amazing, and I like how Leonardo's motivation plays out. How do you feel about Leonardo's narrative closure? He's an incredible character.
About his closure? Like,
yes.
Well,
emotional closure.
Yeah. No, I understand what you're saying. I mean, I think it's a film about about three different people who have these dreams, you know? And they have this plan for how they're going to make their dreams come true. And then it's a film about what happens when those dreams don't come true in the way that you thought they would. But the dreams still do come true. You know, like it's like their destiny actually did come true. Like Leonardo does end up where he really wants to be. And so does Sara, and so does Nassim, but just not in the way that they'd hoped or the way they'd expected. So I think, you know, without giving away too much, I think Leonardo is in a really good place at the end of the film. But, you know, he's like faced with, okay, this, like, everything is different now, and I have to move forward, and here we go. I mean, I think that's something we can all relate to, you know, we've all been in that position, I think.
You know, it's a film which is presented in 3 different languages. How did you approach the experience of shooting a film with a considerable amount of dialogue in Spanish, which is not your first language, but also in English and also in Farsi?
It was complicated sometimes, and it was made more complicated by the fact that when we were in Cuba, the crew was kind of half from Quebec and half from Cuba. So most of the crew, maybe even more of the crew, was from Quebec. So they're speaking French. So it was like English, French, and Spanish all the time. Like it was actually almost no English. Like, you know, it was mostly I was working in French and Spanish. And so my brain was very tired all the time. You know, it was like, but in a way, I think that was cool because I really didn't want to give I didn't want to have a bias, you know? I didn't want to be from the point of view of the tourist or the point of view of the Cuban. I wanted to, not that I was trying to be objective, but I was just trying to be equally engaged with everybody. And so the fact that we're dealing with an Afro-Cuban person and I'm not Afro-Cuban, and an Iranian woman, I mean, I'm half Iranian, but I barely speak Farsi, and I'm not a woman who's trying to have a baby. So, you know, we're not like, I could be equally engaged and let the story tell itself without leaning on language in the same way that you would if it was like a normal English film. And that's also why it was really important for me to work with a cinematographer who wasn't Cuban or Canadian, because I really wanted, again, not an objectivity, but more like I wanted somebody who could see Cuba without romanticizing it, but without making it banal either. You know, it's someone who could really like see it for what it is in his own way, and then also see Canada. Because I mean, he would see things in Montreal that I would never notice because I'm so used to it. Like he would see the way that snow was falling in a certain, he's like, oh, we should get a shot of that, because that, as someone who's not from Canada, is really interesting. And so I was really appreciative of the fact that he was able to bring a kind of like a foreigner, like an engaged foreigner's perspective to both places.
I have no more question. I just have to say that I really love your movie. Congratulations for a beautiful movie that leaves us thinking a lot.
Oh, cool. Well, thank you guys. That was fun.
I have one more question, and it's because I'm very interested in maybe if you're working into, you know, in another film, or yeah, I know that this is very fresh, but if you are writing right now.
Yeah, I'm writing a kind of a surrealist neo-noir thriller that takes place between a dream world and reality. So it's like a love story that takes place between two parallel worlds.
It's actually great. It's gonna have chemical puppetry.
I think it's gonna be way crazier, man. I want to go.
Great.
Like it was fun. I was able to do a lot of kind of visual experimentation with Sin La Habana, and I was really happy with that, and happy with what Juan Pablo and I were able to discover together. But I want to go visually way farther and like sonically like really create immersive worlds to sink into, you know?
Yeah. So Kaveh, thank you very much for being here tonight, and
thank you so much.
This is for you people, and we expect that at some point in the future you can watch this film, Sin La Habana. We like it a lot, and goodbye. Please, Kaveh.
Thank you very much, guys. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
Okay.
All right.
I'm actually cutting, but we have some minutes.
Okay.
We want to thank you for this again, and we actually really like the film.
All right.
Yes. I really hope to see your movie in the cinema very soon.
Yeah, man. I mean, that's the thing, is watching it on a laptop. It's sad because it's really
totally.
It's a
Your
big
movie is for a cinema.
Especially for the music and all the
Yes, the soundtrack is amazing.
Oh, cool.
Really. Congratulations for this.
So you're featuring the film on Monday, right? Live in Miami.
On Sunday.
Okay.
Sunday.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So I'm actually going. I'm leaving on Saturday to go to Miami, which is nice.
Okay.
Oh.
Yeah.
So have a lot of luck that night, and I know that everyone is gonna be cheering about the film.
All right. Well, thanks, guys. I hope. We're hoping to sell the film in Latin America. So if we can sell it in Ecuador, you know.
Yes, please.
Hola.
Okay. Thank you very much.
Take care.